I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines, where my guest is the Louisiana Secretary of State, Cal Ardoin. The Secretary of State is going to talk about a lot of concerns that folks have had all over the nation, elections, and are they accurate? He's going to talk to us about the concerns, how they've been addressed, and how they're going to be addressed, so you know your vote counts, and that's important. So join us on the next Legal Lines with Louisiana Secretary of State, Cal Ardoin. I'm lawyer Locke Meredith. If you're battling an insurance company because of a wreck not your fault and they're not calling you back or being fair, whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555, or email Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. You have nothing to lose.
Hi, I'm Sean Fagan of Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates. When insurance companies have been unfair, we've never been afraid to go to trial. Fighting hard to protect your rights, we never settle a case out of convenience. We only settle when it's right for you. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Meredith. Injuries happen when you least expect them to, making your life more complicated. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates, we know this and we strive to help each of our clients during these times. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call at 272-5555.
I'm lawyer Collins Locke Meredith. Trust is important when hiring an injury law firm. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan Associates, thousands have trusted us and gotten the results they deserved. Visit us at LockeMeredith.com. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555.
Hello, welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm very pleased to have back on the show Cal Ardoin. He is the Louisiana Secretary of State. Kyle, it's wonderful to see you again.
Wonderful to see you, my friend.
It's going to be nice to get an update on where we are, where we've been, and where we're going.
Absolutely.
So, first of all, kind of quickly explain to folks what the Secretary of State does, but how you became Secretary of State.
Well, the Secretary of State is Chief Elections Officer for the state of Louisiana, but also the archivist basically for the state. We archive all the major and important paperwork for the state of Louisiana, documents that date back to the beginning of Louisiana's inception. Also, we have the commercial division where all businesses file with our state to do business in our state, so that people know who's doing business in our
It's that big old beautiful archives building.
It sure is. And then I also have museums around the state.
How many?
13 of them. The All-State Capitol downtown, and we just took over. We just took over the old governor's mansion from the Division of Administration. They asked us to run it, so we're creating a symbiotic relationship between the Old State Capitol and the governor's mansion.
Those are really historical and
beautiful buildings. Yes.
Yeah, yes, fantastic.
Yes. I became Secretary of State when my predecessor resigned for personal reasons, and so I served as interim Secretary of State until I was elected in 2018. For the unexpired term, and then I ran for the first full
And you're
term.
the 44th Secretary of State for the state of Louisiana.
I am.
Fantastic. You also were recently elected president of kind of the big boy organization for the all nations, our nation's all 50 Secretary of States, correct?
That's correct.
What is that? What is it that you have to do?
So I'm basically the figurehead for the National Association of Secretaries of State. I put on a winter conference that's coming up in Washington, D.C., and then we're also going to be hosting all the secretaries from around the state in the early summer here in Baton Rouge for a conference. And so manage the issues that are surrounding our country with elections, and manage the association with the staff, and work with our secretaries to find solutions to the issues we all face around this country.
The truth is you came in at a very tumultuous time, and it hadn't gotten any better. It's gotten a whole lot worse. So I guess I keep wondering, are you glad you won? Because you just got reelected in 2019.
Right. So this was
smash. You crushed your opponent. So
it's
what's motivating you?
The good Lord. Basically, he basically, I felt inspired by God to run for this office. And he placed me here, and I think he's placed me here for a reason. Having the knowledge that I have from working in the Secretary of State's office.
30 years, right?
No.
Okay.
10 years.
10 years there.
And I think other folks have worked 30 years there, that our good friend Sailor.
Maybe Sailor?
Yeah, exactly. And then I should have known when he booked it out of there, and I was stuck there. I should have gone with him. But anyway, it's exciting, but it's most challenging. And Locke, what I've found is Secretary of State really needs to be a public servant, and a public servant in that you lead, but at the same time, you listen to the people and you
That's
work
the
with the
best
people.
leader.
Yeah. And so what I've been doing for the last year is not only explaining our elections processes and procedures and the successes we've had over the years of rooting out fraud and having the integrity in our system. I've also learned from our citizens of what their concerns are, what they saw around the country in 2020, and what we need to adapt to meet their concerns so that they have confidence moving forward and want to participate.
It's interesting because I mean, if I recall the stats I was hearing of Republicans who think it was stolen or manipulated in some way, I think it's like 70% or somewhere around that in a recent poll, and even includes independents and some Dems. So there's clearly concern that occurred, or it could occur.
Right.
And so it's good news to hear. Now, as I understand it, I mean, I was reading stuff, and we are a state, or maybe the only state now that doesn't have paper ballots involved in the election process. Is that right? And explain why, how we get there.
So,
And you weren't involved in that decision to do that.
Not at all. Back in 2000, when Bush beat Gore in a nail biter, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
We had the punch cards like Florida did.
Good
and
God.
so we needed to move away from that. The Help America Vote Act provided funding to the state of Louisiana and multiple states to move away from paper-based, to move to electronic, because they wanted to make sure the votes were recorded accurately, and it's not up to people looking in a light to see if they're
Right.
hanging chads or what have you.
Understandable.
Right. And so that progression made, and now we're right 20 years later, we're right back. Now they're questioning the electronics versus the paper.
So why in the world were we using punch cards? Was it fed through like a computer reader, card reader
it
type
was.
thing?
Yes, it was. And of course, then we had also mechanical machines at the same time. So we had some things in one part of the state and others in another. And so in 1995, and then in 2005, we became a uniform state, top down. Everybody's using the same machines, whether it's early voting or election day.
Explain that, because as I understand what you told me while we were meeting earlier, we're the only state that handles it this way?
We are. So in other states, the counties can determine the voting system that they want.
So if you got 50 counties in one state, you got 50 systems.
You could, very well. And then you have 50 different interpretations of how to do things. Where
Nightmare.
in Louisiana, all 64 parishes are voting on the same machines. All 64 parishes are following the same processes and procedures, all the checks and balances we've built in over the years to prevent fraud and to deter fraud. So that makes it much better so that everybody knows what's going on at the same time and doing the same thing.
Uniformity, it makes a lot of sense. And it creates control, not political control, but control over a system where it can't be as easily manipulated by local politics.
Right, and so we also instill responsibilities not only with the Secretary of State and his staff, but also the clerk of court and their staff and the registrar of voters and their staff. So it's a three-pronged approach, checks and balances within all that, so that it's not so centralized that it would be easy to create fraud. And then you have the Parish Board of Election Supervisors, which is made up of a Republican, a Democrat, a governor's appointee, the clerk or their designee, and the registrar or their designee, and they are the ones that are actually adjudicating absentee ballots personally in eye view to determine if that vote, how that vote should be counted, if it should be counted.
All right, let's kind of shift gears a little bit. So as I understand it, you've always wanted paper balloting as part of the process, and there's a great desire to try and change into a system that allows that to be part of the voting and election process. We've tried to do that 2 times already before, right?
Right.
And I think in 2018 and then in beginning of 2019, right?
Or
this year.
2021 this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now there's a commission, I think, that's set up. So what I want to do on the next segment is dive into that part.
Okay.
And let us know what's coming
That
at
sounds
us.
good. Okay.
All right, this is Locke Meredith with Kyle Ardoin, our Louisiana Secretary of State. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Mitchell Meredith. Injuries happen when you least expect them to, making your life more complicated. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates, we know this and we strive to help each of our clients during these times. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call at 272-5555.
Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan and Associates has won for our clients over $175 million over the decades, but our greatest success is our clients who have chosen and trusted us to help them. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call. You've got nothing to lose.
I'm lawyer Collins Locke Meredith. Trust is important when hiring an injury law firm. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan Associates, thousands have trusted us and gotten the results they deserved. Visit us at LockeMeredith.com. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call, 272-5555.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Very pleased to have on the show our Louisiana Secretary of State, Cal Ardoin. Let's dive back in.
Absolutely.
So we were talking earlier, kind of a lot of concerns about the 2020 presidential election and even possibly the effect on the Senate races and other races at the federal level. And so I know there was tons of concern expressed by tons of citizens all over the nation, and I assume the same thing happened here in Louisiana.
Oh, without a doubt. And it seemed at first it was an attack on Louisiana's system. So, I guess we got kind of defensive. But really it came down on us when we released the request for proposals for our new voting system. And we did so under current law. I worked very closely with procurement lawyers to make sure that we couldn't be accused of trying to slant it in one direction or the other. But what's ironic about what we went through is the law required us to utilize direct record election machinery.
Meaning no paper?
No paper.
Got it.
But we put in the bid that we wanted a paper component that the voter could verify before casting their vote or upon casting their vote.
And quick question, so would that have prevented an improper vote from occurring?
It would have allowed us to audit any voting machine if there was an inaccurate
So
vote
if
count.
they
That's
said,
right.
wait a minute, this is not right, then y'all could go back and say what the machine did
We could.
and make an adjustment.
We could.
Got it. Okay.
But the concern around the country, as you can well understand, coming out of the 2020 election was there was distrust for any and all election machine vendors. So what the
Now, how many vendors are there?
maximum of 5 that I understand in terms of voting machines, 3 being major players. And so that makes it even more difficult because they're so competitive, and this could be such a large, because it's our entire state, a large contract versus county by county in other states. That's a ton of money. And so they're being very competitive and aggressive, extremely aggressive and very political.
Has it always, in your experience, Kyle, been a political activity to choose who the vendor was going to be?
Well, I wasn't around the last time they chose it. Now, it was competitive as far as I understand, and it even went to court. But the court upheld then Secretary Ader's decision on that. And so, I guess it's always been competitive, but because the market is now so small, I think they had 7 or 8 bidders for that contract in 2005 versus 3 in the last 2 attempts.
Wow.
So the fewer companies, the tougher the competition is and the more aggressive they are for that money, because it's a very niche market. And the only way they really make money, in my opinion, is the maintenance contracts. And so they want you to be dependent upon their equipment. And I think
Which is scary in a way on the
Yes.
if you're forced to trust them, right?
Oh, exactly. And that's what the citizens of Louisiana don't want, and citizens around the country don't want. And so I'm pursuing my belief is that we need to pursue a voting system that is machine agnostic. We shouldn't be dependent upon proprietary equipment to perform our voting system.
Amen, brother.
And
Seriously.
so that's where I'm headed.
No matter what you say, no matter what the contract says, they control what happens with the machine. Period.
Correct.
They count the vote.
And where Louisiana differs also is we, as the Secretary of State's office, our employees are the ones that program the machines and always have to prevent interference from these companies and maintain the machines.
But you still have the concern then?
I don't have the concern as much now my concern is, can I convince voters that that is a component that we have, or do you still have concerns? And the answer to that question is they still have concerns, but their concerns are less because we control the process. But in the end, their fear is that there's still some behind the scenes electronic component that they can control that we don't know about.
And so bottom line question is then, is there a process available that eliminates that potential completely, that somebody's going to manipulate this?
Yes, and that's the paper component. Whether it is a machine printing a ballot for you and you confirm that ballot and then you take it to a tabulator, if you will, and all it's doing is tabulating the votes, and then you can audit it afterwards with the paper, making sure that it was an accurate election. And that's the component that we have to have most.
Got it. Now, as I understand it, we have 10,000 machines, voting machines?
We do.
Roughly?
Roughly. And so our 10,000 voting machines on election day have never been connected to the internet, cannot be connected to the internet. When you open them up, they don't even have the technology available.
No modems, huh?
And no modems at all. In fact, it's just made, I guess you could equate it to it's a basic calculator. It just ticks the numbers, right, and tabulates, and then gives you a report at the end of the evening.
So, and you've mentioned a couple times that there's a big multi-million-dollar contract for these guys if they get it. So there's a lot of competition. So, because of all the concern about 2020 election, the legislature creates this committee or commission that's supposed to guide you or contribute knowledge, or but you make the final decision. Is that right?
That is correct. So this voting system commission is 13 members with appointees from the Attorney General, the Governor. I'm on there. My Commissioner of Elections is on there. A member of the NAACP Disability Community.
Are you the chair?
I'm the chair. I was elected to be chair at the first meeting, and so I'm playing more of a facilitator role. I'm not trying to drive the debate, but we're bringing in experts. We had an overall presentation of what our system is today, what it looks like, how we protect it from cybersecurity on, the whole kit and caboodle. And now we're ready to start hearing from folks around the country and the state as to what types of systems we're looking at and where to go. And so the commission has to make a recommendation of what type of system we go to.
But not who, right?
That's correct.
Not who you buy it from.
That's correct, because that's got to be through a bid process through the state.
Okay. Now, my recall from reading stuff is that we currently use the Dominion vendor or service provider.
That is correct.
And I just remember when all the hoopla was going on about the 2020 election, there was big concern about Dominion systems, right?
That is correct.
And you weren't involved in purchasing Dominion, or
no?
Right. Okay.
No.
So this is an attempt to make dadgum sure the election is accurate, fair, and nobody's vote didn't count, and a wrong vote took away their right vote.
Right. And understand this. The machines, our election day machines, the 10,000 machines that we have, were actually Sequoia machines. Dominion acquired Sequoia, and so that's how we ended up with Dominion.
So was it technically not a Dominion machine?
It is not a Dominion machine.
That's so fascinating, because you never hear that stuff.
Right.
All right, so that process takes place how long?
The RFP process?
The commission.
The commission. So the commission needs to report currently by the end of January, but we're going to have to push that back because of Ida. We weren't able to start in September like we had hoped, so we started in mid-November.
All right, we'll continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with Kyle Ardoin, our Louisiana Secretary of State. We're talking about elections. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sean Fagan of Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan & Associates. Open the phone book or look online. There are plenty of lawyers to choose from. And if you ask any of them, they'll agree that the vast majority of claims settle without ever having gone to trial. And I'll tell you, any lawyer can settle a claim. It's not hard to settle a claim, but it takes hard work to get a client what he or she deserves. At Locke Meredith, Sean Fagan & Associates, we have a proven record of working hard for our clients. Whether you hire us at all, give us a call.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. I'm very pleased to have back on the show our Louisiana Secretary of State, Kyle Ardoin. Let's dive back in, Kyle.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So we're talking about, the bid process. You mentioned that previously. We get the committee or commissions with all the participants' recommendation given to you. You're the chairman of it. They tell you the system they want, but you really make the ultimate decision on system and vendor or the service
Ultimately.
provider?
So there is a separate committee that will be appointed to evaluate any of the requests for proposals. What we've done differently is we're now going to go through rulemaking process to set the standards that each company has to be met to be certified to even compete for the contract. Then we'll develop the RFP, and the RFP is all the specifications, every detail down to monitor size, if it's going to be in equipment, if it's a paper ballot, what are the safety components or the integrity components of that
got
paper?
hidden stamps
Right,
and
yeah.
colors.
And you want to make sure that it can't be replicated,
Right.
That sort of thing. So all those nuances will then be determined, and then it'll be put out for bid. And as we talked about earlier, we went from 2005 of 7 to 8 competitors. Now, in the last 2, there's only been 3 competitors, and it's pretty vicious. It can be political behind the scenes.
So describe what you've seen.
I have seen these companies lobby legislators. I have seen them lobby the press to try to make it look like, use attorneys to make it look like I'm trying to
File
rig
lawsuits
it,
and
file lawsuits,
make allegations.
protests. When the protest time is down the road, just making any kind of accusation that muddies the water and makes people think that there's some funny business going on. And the fact of the matter is, I have one job, and that is to get the best, most accurate, transparent, and honest system for the people of Louisiana. I don't care who the vendor is. If we are going in the direction of equipment agnostic processes where it doesn't matter whose equipment we use, we're still in control.
Is that your
That's all I
preference?
want. That's my preference. And that would be
Sounds
new.
like it's the safest.
That would be new for basically the country. And I'll liken it to this. Years ago, Fox McKithen told the IT department, we've got to get away from IBM and Oracle. They're too expensive and they control too much. And that's when the state of Louisiana, birthed the Election Registration Information Network. We call it ARIN. That became the game changer for the state of Louisiana. There's nothing like it in the nation. It controls our voter registration system. It does our qualifying system. It does our ballots. It creates our ballots. And then we air gap that to the election management system. And then we go and program our machines.
Interesting.
All done internally. That was the game changer. Now Louisiana has the opportunity to potentially
Another
be the
game
game
changer.
changer again.
We need to be.
And I look forward to it.
Excellent. So and so the bid process is those guys come in, they each make their bid, and then how's that decided?
They try to sell to the committee of 5 that will grade their proposals according to a grading system that is public knowledge. It's built into the RFP. It deals with cybersecurity issues. It deals with financials of the company.
And when you say cybersecurity, we're talking about no ports, no way to connect to the internet.
That is correct.
Cut off.
That is correct.
No pipeline.
This new legislation, if you look at the requirements that it put in for this new system, are the exact requirements that we currently use already and have been using for many years. And so they'll try to sell their system and their product. The committee grades them, and when the committee finishes its work, it sends the recommendation to me. And I review it, I look at it, I study it, make sure I felt like it was done appropriately, and either I sign off on it or I send it back and ask them to redo it. Once I've made my decision, I send it to the Office of State Procurement, and then they temporarily award the contract, and then the litigation begins, the fussing, the contest, the name calling, you get it. I mean, they're gonna fight it because they all want the money.
Right. It's hundreds of millions, or close to 100 from what I read.
Only if it's major equipment.
Okay.
So
we save money going to
a
paper.
paper-based system will save money.
Wow.
But one thing we're going to have to do is we have to make sure that we implement this over time in phases, because we need to educate voters. We've been using electronic machines for 20, 30 years. Mm-hmm. That takes a lot of education for now people to utilize paper voting. If it's a full ballot paper-based system, if it's a ballot marking device, that's something different. They'll be more likely to understand that component of it. But we don't want to rush into it, and we need to train my staff. We'll need to train the clerk staff. We'll need to train the registrar staff.
So what time frame?
I think it'll be a 3-year implementation process.
Okay.
Because we want to pilot it, make sure we get the bugs out,
Right.
and then move forward
Makes
in
sense.
implementation.
So it sure sounds like, based on our conversation, you know, number one, this whole proprietary thing that the companies come with, and they're the only ones that can look at it and read it and, you know, make the repairs or whatever. You know, you're eliminating that concern, and the paper ballot. It seems like you're going to make a lot of people happy, a lot of voters happy with this after all your headache.
I hope so.
But it's interesting. So let's shift gears a little bit then. A lot of complaints or concerns were made about the different types of new ways to vote during COVID, the emergency of COVID, and maybe even the hurricanes. I don't think I've ever heard these complaints during our particular emergencies, but on the nationwide emergency. Explain to folks what new ways of voting occurred during that period of time, whether or not they're still taking place, and then how we've got protections from fraud and all that.
So in Louisiana, we have a sophisticated absentee ballot program where you have to request your ballot. That information has to be, and it has to be in writing or online. That information has to be validated before your ballot is sent. Then we track the ballot. When the ballot comes back, we check it in. And every day there's a report of how many ballots came in and whose ballots came
Okay.
in.
We got 2 minutes.
Okay. We didn't change that process. We allowed for people for 5 different reasons for COVID to be able to apply for that ballot. We did not change our system overall. Like other states mailed ballots out,
Right.
mailed out absentee ballot requests.
Louisiana did none of that.
Louisiana did not do that. We knew we needed to stay within our system, but at the same time meet the needs of individuals who had COVID, were exposed to COVID, or individuals who had underlying conditions. That emergency process worked well. We had to go to the legislature. It's a little cumbersome by having to promote, say, Governor, I certify there's an emergency. Governor agrees. Then I bring a plan to the legislature and the governor. The legislature has to approve it. The committees
Both
first.
houses?
Both houses.
Wow.
And it's a cumbersome process.
Right.
And
But
then the
it's
governor
important.
has to agree. But it is important. It keeps the continuity of government as the Constitution provides
All right,
for.
we got about a minute left. So kind of explain, are those unique ways of voting still taking place?
No, we shut that down after the after the spring elections of this year, and then we've been doing it normal since, back to the old ways.
So bottom line is the concerns that have been expressed both to you and publicly and to our legislature, it sounds like they are being addressed at this very moment by you and your staff.
Absolutely, and we're meeting with citizens groups, and we're hearing their concerns, and we're working with them, and we're literally explaining the process A to Z in very detail so they understand it.
Kyle, wonderful to have you back. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to getting an
Good to be
update
here.
here. Pretty soon.
Absolutely.
This is Locke Meredith Legal Lines. My very special guest, Louisiana Secretary of State, Kyle Ardoin.